The Raspberry Pi, a versatile single-board computer that's limited by one's imagination, including emulating a Commodore 64. Do you want to know how to rig your Pi into a Commodore 64 Mini? Let's find out on the Retro Coder. There are four hardware items besides a keyboard and HDMI cable that's needed in order to build a Commodore 64 Mini. Let's take a look at the supply list. First of all, you need a Raspberry Pi. Any version will do. Since the system is going to be running a Commodore 64 emulation, you don't need anything powerful. The Raspberry Pi Zero will suffice. However, Target does sell a Raspberry Pi 3 for $35. You'll need a micro SD card because the Raspberry Pi does not come with a hard drive. The operating system is loaded onto RAM from a micro SD card. Whatever space is left over is the hard drive. In order to power the computer, you'll need a power supply. You can order one specifically for a Raspberry Pi online. Otherwise, a regular micro USB cell phone charger will work, but I don't recommend it for the Raspberry Pi Zero. Finally, you'll need a cool case. If you're going to make a Commodore 64 Mini, then I recommend purchasing a Raspberry Pi 3 case as shown above that looks like a Commodore 64. Or repurpose an old Commodore computer, or use a retro VHS tape, or build a case from scratch. It's all up to one's inspiration and abilities. Now that we went over the supply list, let's see how to flash the Commodore 64 emulator onto a micro SD card.
The first thing you want to do is download Commodore, which is the operating system. It's basically Linux that's stripped down that loads Vice on startup. Vice is a Commodore 64 emulator. However, if you hit the F8 key, you can change it to any version of the Commodore, the VIC-20 or the PET, the Commodore 128, any version you want. And then when we scroll down the page, we can go ahead and go to the download page, which takes you to his Google Drive, and then you can download any version of Commodore that you want, and it will have the image. And from there, I go to Etcher, I choose the image, select the drive, which is the micro USB, and then I simply flash it. And that's all there is to it. Let's go ahead and load up the Raspberry Pi and see how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and write a quick little program at the end of the show. Let's do thanks for watching. And we'll do an endless loop with a go-to statement, which is taboo in modern programming languages.
Sit, Phoebe, sit. Good cat.